Now to Lamar Jackson talk. We are meandering our way through the NFL weekend, and we've got a lot to get to. So if we haven't gotten to what you want to hear yet, just sit tight.
It's coming.
It will come, yeah. But we weren't here yesterday, so we couldn't talk about any of the games. But we're talking about Mark Andrews and everything and dropsies. Well, now to Lamar Jackson, who had 2 turnovers, played great in the second half.
Second half lights out,
but he's been lights out all year. Like, I mean, he did rally, but the 2 turnovers really hurt him. They got in a 21-10 hole, and they couldn't rally. No. And there's this old adage.
They were back to back, right? The interception and the fumble came on, 2 straight.
That really flipped the game because then Baltimore was able to take advantage, and towards the end of the half,
Buffalo was able to take advantage.
I'm sorry, Buffalo, and then they got the ball to start the second half, which you really thought, wow, they're going to put this out of range. Yep. Just with the middle 8, which Baltimore luckily got a stop at that first second half, and they played a lot better on both sides of the ball, but it was too late. So there's this old adage that we've talked about here before, and that is let the other team lose the game. Yeah. And look, that's way too reductive to be a thing on a football team, right? But what that means when I would imagine, when you're listening to Andy Reid coach or when you're listening to Sean McDermott coach, I think they're talking about the little things we cannot do that will cost us games, and they matter, and we cannot turn it over. Turnovers aren't even a little thing. Every coach knows that turnover margin is like the number one decider of football games.
And it decided every one of these games. But the Rams lost because of turnovers.
100%.
The Ravens lost turnovers, and then we haven't even gotten to the Lions yet. Oh my God.
But and they turned it over, 5 times?
5 times, I believe. So
yeah, and every team knows it. And look, sometimes there's variance and turnovers are going to happen. But I do think, and I'd be interested in your opinion on this.
Did you see the number from the 4 games this weekend? The winners turned the ball over a combined 0 times, and the losers 10 total.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. Tell me that before the weekend starts, and I'll tell you who to bet on.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's simple. Now, the question is how much of that can be controlled? And I do think that certain teams, particularly the Kansas City Chiefs, are freaking great at it. Yeah. They do not beat themselves. They let you lose the game. And when it comes to, and I thought Buffalo actually did that in this game against Baltimore.
Yes.
They were not, like if you watch Buffalo this year, I feel like they got a little Chiefs in them where they're running the ball better, and they don't seem as explosive, and they know they don't have to be. They just know that they need to be more efficient, and they can't turn it over.
Fun two little Josh Allen things to I couldn't agree more with the Chiefs thing. Like, Mahomes' numbers are not fantastic. Did you see that receivers for the Kansas City Chiefs, 62 yards in that game?
Yeah.
And they won.
Yeah.
Josh Allen. And this is why I said at the beginning of the year, I've been wrong a million times, but everyone that was writing off the Buffalo Bills because Stephon Diggs left, okay, have fun with that. Josh Allen, he threw for 127 yards in this game and won. He had 1 pass over 10 yards. 1.
Yeah.
And yet they won. And they kind of feel, again, like we're going to be in that Kansas City mold, because last year when he was explosive and all that, what killed Buffalo? Yeah. Josh Allen turnovers. And this year,
he will.
He's not turning the ball over.
They've done a great job with him over the years of changing his, getting him to understand that, whatever they've done. So that answers the question. It is somewhat controllable.
Yes.
And the Bills did a great job of that. The Bills didn't win that game as much as Baltimore lost that game.
Yeah.
The Chiefs never freaking lose a game. No. You better beat them.
Yeah.
And they make you do that. And that goes a long way. And I feel like with Baltimore, there is something about them, and maybe it's a Lamar thing. I don't know if he's ever going to be that. I think he's a guy that is sensational.
Yeah.
They are a team that is sensational, but that's kind of their thing, their Achilles heel. I don't know if they clean that up. I don't know how they clean that up.
I think he will eventually have a Peyton Manning, Steve Young, Drew Brees. He is too good to not get one. Although Dan Marino never got one, right? I mean,
is he now the best quarterback who never got one?
Yes.
I mean, he's got he will get his third MVP.
This will be his third MVP. And he does things that I've never seen a quarterback do. And in the second half, he was lights out. But you're right in that he had the interception on the ball with Bateman. And then the one thing that Lamar will do at times, he gets a little wonky with his ability, and that ball was hanging out on the fumble, and those things were were killers. And no Zay Flowers, I think certainly hurts. He's the one dynamic piece they have to their offense. And I thought that they got outcoached. I thought what Buffalo did defensively against them in the first half was really, really good. And it took Baltimore far too long to figure it out. I was sitting there in the first half. They did not have one designed quarterback run for Lamar Jackson. And I'm sitting there and I think Derrick Henry had like 7 carries. I am sitting there and be like, I am beating my head against the wall being like, oh my God, they're going to do it again. Remember last year, I said Todd Monken had the worst, and hand to God, you cannot convince me otherwise. That was the worst game plan I've ever seen in my life with the Ravens against the Chiefs. And it still came down to a Zay Flowers drop. And in the first half, I was like, they're doing it again. What in God's green earth is going on? Second half, they adjusted and they got the run game going. And then I was like, all right, everything's fine. And it still came down to a Mark Andrews drop.
Well, Henry only carried it 16 times.
I know. It makes no sense to me. But in the second half, they were rolling, and some of that was Derrick Henry, and we're still going to put this on Lamar. And yes, last year and this year, he was not perfect, but he is not the reason why
I don't think so.
They have lost these two
No
games.
one's saying that. At the same time, this is also not a statement that says he can't win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, he just hasn't.
But the question with him is very valid, especially after that game, because I don't know how you get better than what Baltimore's bringing to the table.
Yeah.
With Derrick Henry and him,
it's
if
great.
Zay's out there and Andrew, like, dude, that is as good as you can build a football team.
It's scary.
And so I think the question with Lamar is a fair one, is that if they're going to win one, are they going to have to do it in spite of Lamar's boneheaded plays from time to time? I mean, there are quarterbacks like that.
Yeah.
Brett Favre was like that.
Favre was like that, yeah.
And Lamar may just be that guy because it's maddening how they cannot get out of their own way. They do not let the other team lose the game. Yeah. And that's all they have to do with a team that good. And you're right about Monken. I was texting back and forth. I have a good buddy who's a huge Ravens fan. He's from Baltimore. And he knows them as well as anybody.
Yeah,
and he was like, dude, we are learning that Todd Monken is not elite. Yeah. He's just not. He may be good. He's not. That's 2 years in a row. And you get down to this level of the NFL playoffs, it's uncanny how the same coordinators kind of pop back up, right? Spagnuolo, again. Vic Fangio, again. That guy is elite. Those guys are elite. Todd Monken is showing he's not it.
No.
He's just not. And I don't know if they'll make a change. They had a really good offense, but there's a difference between being great in the regular season and being great against great teams who are scheming against you with great coordinators in the conference championship game or the divisional round. And he just hasn't had it. Each of the last 2 years, he hasn't.
How about on the goal line? You got that Derrick Henry guy. Maybe give him the ball.
You mean on the 2-point?
Yeah, the earlier in the game. Like there's just times
where they had to settle for 3.
Yeah, there's times in the game where I just again it's easy for me to sit up here and be like, oh, you should run this. There's too many times, even during the season, this Baltimore offense at times was the best offense that I've seen in 20 years
really
of
hard to stop.
watching the NFL. And then other times you look at it and you're like, what
are they doing?
What are they doing? Yeah. And for the first half, and so I give them credit because they made adjustments the second half. They were lights out. But as you said, that first half was just kind of sitting there being like, what? Not 2 years in a row. And to come that close, and it's still, the last couple of years have come down to drops and silly turnovers.
I got a new thing about them. I've been on them for years. I love them. I had a ticket for them to win the Super Bowl. I'm like, dude, that team is so good. And Harbaugh's won one, so we know it's, I will no longer trust them. I can't trust them.
No.
You just can't.
I get it.
And, that last drive, what was another interesting thing is, like, I don't know what you thought, but real quick, we'll get it in the news next, but that last drive where McDermott kicked the field goal, that's another. See, I thought that was, like, questionable that he went for 3 there.
Yeah.
To give Baltimore a chance to come and tie it. I was like, dude, this is how you keep losing to Kansas City.
Because you've seen a lot of teams lately that just do that. You know what? Screw it. We're not giving you the ball. We're going for it. We're going to end it right here.
Exactly. He didn't, and it worked out. But I thought that was, nobody's talking about it because they won.
Yeah, they won.
But that was pretty conservative.
That was 4th and goal at the 2-yard line. And they kicked it. And believe me, I was like, and I get it. It's 8. If it was to go up 7, I'm like, dude, you go for it. But at least 8, you make him get the 2-point conversion and see what happens. But they had the 2-point conversion. And what are we talking about if they lose that game? We're going back to that McDermott call.
100%. And it's, I don't know. I just thought it's like the other team wants you to kick the field goal.
Yes.
Don't kick the field goal.
Yes.
Like the other team's like, oh my God, they're going to give us a chance. Fine.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Go for it.
Yeah.
So that was dumb. But on that last drive, down 8, Derrick Henry wasn't even on the field.
No.
And I wonder, and some of that is, well, okay, you got to get down there quick.
You got to throw.
But at the same time, you also had the thought of, well, they've been having success with him. You've got plenty of time. As a matter of fact, they got down there, dude. They got down there just under the 2-minute warning.
Yeah.
So they had plenty of time. That was puzzling, I thought. Now, nobody's talking about it because Lamar drove him down.
Yeah.
But where was Derrick Henry on
I think it just comes down to when they realize that they have to throw the ball. Justice Hill is who they go to, and they got it back with I'm looking here. About 3:30, and so they just made the decision that Derrick Henry is, and he had a drop earlier too in the first half, and so I think when it just came to throwing, they made the decision that nope, this is Justice Hill. The one downside to Derrick Henry as opposed to the Saquon Barkleys of the world is Derrick Henry really doesn't play into the passing game.
Yeah, I just think that you had plenty of time to run the ball.
Did.
Because
they were
also lost in that is if Mark Andrews catches that ball, is there any doubt that Buffalo gets down and gets a shot at a game-winning field goal?
Yeah.
Because they left too much time. So when you're I don't know how this may be just a fan thing, but when you're an offensive coordinator and a head coach talking about game management in the last 3 or 4 minutes, when you get the ball back, what'd you say, 3:20?
3:30-ish when they got it back.
I think one of the things you got to be talking about is, hey, and they had, I think, one timeout?
I think there were some timeouts, yeah.
One of the things you have to be talking about is we cannot give them, and we have to milk this whole thing. Because this is it.
It would have been 1:33 left, and Allen would have had the ball with a chance to go
and
down.
he would have had plenty of time.
Yeah.
And you can't, I mean, that's where it gets into the,
that's tough.
Well, you don't want to score that soon, but then again, you score, so it's like, okay. But I don't know. I think that's part of the conversation too, which is where Derrick Henry comes in. It's like you didn't have to rush down the field the way they did.
Yeah, you had a little more time.
And you were having success with Derrick Henry, and maybe in the end you can tie it up with no time left.
Yeah,
so I don't know. The Ravens, you can tell I'm a scorned better.
Yeah.
Because that team, is as good a football team as you will see that
it's haunting.
cannot get out of its own way.
It's haunting.